Seth. I am with Because You're Fish, my YouTube channel. I also have a store on Get Gills. You can check me out, see some of the fish that I offer. This is my breeding setup, really. I don't know, like what kind of story am I looking for?
It's kind of how you started. So Seth was nice enough. So Seth saw my video of my Daisy Blue Rice Fish disaster. So Seth was kind enough in one of my live streams to offer me some, and I asked him if I could come down, see his fish room, tour his fish room, and he gladly accepted my, well, I guess I kind of invited myself. He accepted my invitation to come down and hang out, and like we're in for a treat. I've been touring his tanks, we've been nerding out, taking footage, and guys, I have to say that Seth has one of the best philosophies on fish keeping, and he's generous enough to share it with us. But like I said, he also has his own YouTube channel, Because You're Fish, and he's putting out some great content. You really are putting out some great content. I love watching your videos.
Thank you for that, Trent. And thank you, Wel-Don Tanks, for coming and giving me the opportunity to get a little bit more exposure on what I do.
Yeah,
so that's awesome.
I'm not large, but any exposure I can give you, it's well worth it, because you really do have some of the best fish I've seen. Your Daisy Blue Rice fish are one of the best strains I've ever seen.
Good. I'm glad that you can continue them on.
I hope so.
Maybe make them better and get them out there to the world. That'd be awesome. Let's see.
So let's start a breakdown here. Give me what you got going on here. Because there's a few projects in here that I know you've gotten from the co-op. We talked about that. We've seen some things. But again, guys, everything I say in my video is he's adapted this to fit his needs. Everything in this fish room is adapted to fit his needs. So tell me how this works. Give me the overview.
Sure. Okay, so basically everything's ran off of one air pump. Again, it's the Pawfly air pump. It's set to low, it's set on top. It'd probably be a lot more quiet if it wasn't sitting on plastic and metal racks. It's been a good little pump. I built the air manifold using the Zis valves, PVC. I watched Dean make on the Aquarium Co-op channel.
So I copied that same thing. That's how my fish room is run.
Oh, I love it. If I do another fish room, it'd just be a bigger version of that. I do run a couple of the USB filters for some odds and ends.
Those are the greatest little pumps, aren't they?
Oh man.
I think I have like 12 of them.
Yeah, I can't buy enough. And then I do like the Aquarium Co-op sponge filters. Again, they're super coarse. I find for breeding shrimp, you can't get anything better than that, because the shrimplets, they'll live in those filters like a high-rise apartment, free from any predation. As long as you keep those filters good, you should do well with shrimp, in my opinion.
I've heard the argument of people like the finer sponge filter for shrimp, but you're the opposite.
I'm the opposite.
Okay.
Yep.
But it was a good explanation why.
Sure.
And it sounds like you have better survival rate with the coarser sponge filter.
Oh yeah, definitely. The sponge filter upstairs, you noticed I had that moss. I've also transferred it down to this rock. I love that moss. It's growing on top of that filter, and I just let it grow. I just let nature take its place. It's never clogged. It's always done great. And these rice fish, they're basically the fish that I got while conditioning my adults to put out in the pond. I threw in spawning mops with them. I noticed they were spawning quick, and before I put them out in the pond, I just hatched out as many as I could. I've got quite a few out in the pond, quite a few in this 40 breeder, and they're almost, the big ones I should say, are almost to a breeding age. They're about the size that I got them when I ordered them in.
So is this what your far left is? These 10-gallon tanks, right?
Yep, 10-gallon tanks just set on an end to make more room. This first tank here, I originally was breeding Coreodora histatus. I don't know, you may see like 2 or 3 little histatus babies in there. Again, they're pretty flighty. but right now I'm breeding the Coreodorus pygmaeus. I can see that status on top of that crypt leaf.
Back there? I think I just saw his tail. Have you had success with the pygmaeus?
So I haven't noticed. I've noticed breeding behavior, but I haven't noticed any fry.
Okay.
And it's a really dark tank. I keep it subdued so they stay feeling more comfortable, want to breed. So I don't get into that tank very much and mess around. There is one autosynclus that I received from a friend who couldn't keep his fish. I also received the guppies from him. I put that autosynclus in here to kind of help with the cleanup. And then the guppies, like I mentioned, I had a friend move into Oregon and he couldn't keep his fish and he loved his guppies, and I told him that I would take his guppies and when he was ready for them back, I would ship them to him. So I'm still waiting to hear about that, but in the meantime, I'm just breeding those guppies and starting my own colony with his fish. Win-win.
That's very generous of you. Well, why not, right? Why not take some fry from that?
Might as well make the best out of it. And then in this tank, these are the peppered cories that I've been able to breed in my Shodenai tank. I scrape the eggs off the side. I'll hatch them in little containers with hydrogen peroxide, about 3 drops to 2 cups of water. And they grow up. I feed them micro worms and baby brine and a little bit of mulm here and there. And they raise up really well. They're of long fin genetics, so I do get long fins out of them. I try to separate them out when I get the long fins. One of the cool thing about the Pilatus cories is they're going to look different on the different substrate you keep them on. So you keep them on a dark substrate, they look really dark. You keep them on a light substrate, such as a bare bottom, and they'll be super light and you'll see the greens, and they'll almost look like 2 completely different fish. So it's kind of like having 2 fish for the price of 1.
That's cool. So breeding the cories, is that a future video we may see from you? It sounds like you got some solid tips on raising the eggs and actually hatching the eggs out.
So I have photos. I don't have a ton of footage, but it's definitely something that I've considered doing in the future, because I breed them different than how my brother breeds them. He's successful, I'm successful, so there's more than one way to do things, and getting as many viewpoints as possible is, I don't know, going to make you most successful, I believe. I don't know what else you want to. This one?
Yeah, I want to see everything you got.
Good.
Kind of tell me where. I mean, I've been here for an hour and a half. Every time I come to a new place and I see a new tank, there's always something new to learn. And I've already seen things. We've had discussions of what he's doing. And again, this isn't huge. This is a rack just of tanks, but the quality of fish you're producing out of this and the shrimp, I'm still blown away by your shrimp.
And I didn't, optimize this rack. I could have fit another layer of tanks, but really I didn't want to work super low or super high, so I did choose convenience over more tanks, knowing that I'm going to expand out in my garage in the future and probably always leave this rack down here.
Sounds like we'll have a future trip back then when that gets up
right.
and going.
So this 10-gallon is where I've been, one of the tanks I've been breeding sparkling gourami, or croaking gourami, or dwarf gourami. Really cool fish. What attracted me to these fish is their behavior more than anything. They're bubble nesters, but they have really awesome spawning behavior. And then they croak at each other. They literally make noise and click. I do have a video coming out about how I bred these sparkling gourami, the multiple tanks I used, in order to get to the F2s that you see. If you see, there are no more adults in this tank. It's all just super young fry growing out on vinegar ills, micro worms.
Oh, now I see them. I actually now see them. So there's one right back there, right hanging above the sponge filter.
Yeah, one there and one going up over on the side. They're so small. And then, so they normally hang up along the floating plants. When I'm breeding these fish, I don't remove any duckweed because there are so many fry. I've probably got the eye to see them. I can see them up there, but I leave the duckweed. I keep it closed tight because they are anabantoids. They do have that labyrinth organ, and when they're young, they're developing that labyrinth organ, and they do need warm, moist air in order to do that. So a covered tank is maybe not necessary, but it is definitely beneficial to the fry when breeding. I guess probably any anabantoid. I really only have experience with the sparkling gourami. Also in this tank is a lemon drop pleco. I believe that's a cross between a calico and a lemon blue eye. I'm not 100% on that, but it usually will come out if I feed it. And then I keep yellow shrimp in there kind of just to make sure I have a backup on some animals if I do have a crash. I have had a crash in shrimp in my pea puffer tank. Now, in this tank, I had coals and I was raising shrimp. I had so many colors. I had shrimp that were bronze, really cool copper colors, black striped tiger looking shrimp, and they were all just crosses of Neocaridina shrimp. But in a 5-gallon tank, large driftwood, you got to stay on top of your KH, your buffering capacity, because once that's gone, then your pH starts to drop. And I actually had a pH crash in this tank. The puffer made it, but about 90% of the shrimp didn't make it once I realized what was going on.
That's too bad. So with the puffer, because that's actually, I think, the biggest pea puffer I've ever seen.
My brother's got one bigger than that.
That is awesome. Do you find, does he predate on the shrimp?
No, never is predated on the shrimp. There's also a wild-caught hill-stream loach in here you probably won't see. Tried to help with the algae. Again, I wanted something that was going to dwell on the outsides, not of the water column. Just, I didn't want to incite any aggressive behavior, but it's really been a mellow pea puffer. It doesn't affect anything that I've put in. At first, it didn't eat. I did have to feed it baby brine shrimp to get it eating. I used the worm feeder cone to get it eating frozen bloodworms, because it wouldn't eat those at first. It'll now just eat the frozen bloodworms if I drop them in, and then it eats snails and frozen bloodworms.
Because I used to have a shrimp tank. I bedded it in there, 5 pea puffers and some Pleco rainbows. And the puffer, like everybody said, the puffer was going to just destroy everything. The little pea puffers didn't care. They didn't bother any fish I had in the tank with them.
Yep, I've never seen an aggressive one, but I know the information is out there that there are. I know they probably can be. And then plants in this one, mostly, that pearl weed. This is Pogostemon pinnataphida. Really cool plant there. It can either be rooted or it can be affixed to wood or rocks. It can do both. It doesn't need a lot of light, doesn't need CO2, and it has a really interesting texture. Really cool plant. I love that plant. Also the dwarf sage, a little bit of Pogostemon, Stellatus octopus. But that's about it for that tank. I I can't remember this plant, and then again, Rotalia indica in the back.
That just worked for you.
Does that leave me with this one?
I think it's just a 40 breeder now.
Okay. And so this is my 40 breeder, kind of the grow out tank for the Daisy's rice fish. I also am trying to breed panda cories. They're still a little young at this point. To breed, I'm also growing out some super red plecos to kind of choose out my breeders, and then I'll disperse them out through some of my other tanks. Let's see. I have Bloody Mary Sakura shrimp that are breeding in here. They hide out pretty well. I have had my first couple batches of shrimplets that I've seen, so hopefully I get a successful colony of shrimp. I started with 6 of those shrimp, so kind of rolling the dice with my shrimp breeding, but it's been working out. As for the plants, again, I like this moss. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a Marimo, but I take it everywhere.
That's super cool how it grew on that rock, too. That is awesome.
Yeah, I just stuck a piece on that rock and it just... And then these small crypts, those are Crypt Tropica. I got those off of Aquarium Co-Op's website. It came as one plant, and I think I split it 7 ways. Really cool. More stemming, the spiky plant. I've gotten most of my tanks. I've never known what it's called. If anyone can help me ID that plant, that would be great.
It grows well.
It grows well. It looks really cool, and it grows slow. It's a stem plant that grows slow, so it's not a lot of maintenance. And then I've got the Ludwigia Super Red. Needs highlight and does well with CO2, but I'm keeping it going in there. And then more of the Hydro Sunset. Now this one that looks like little golf clubs coming out of the ground, that is Marsilia minuta. That's a pretty rare ground cover. It grows super slow, and it just kind of tracks through your aquarium like that. Sometimes it'll throw up almost 4-leaf clover-looking leaves. It's a really cool plant. I like that one. Coconut Hut from the Aquarium Co-Op. Cave from the Aquarium Co-op. I like to run the 2 sponge filters, coarse one and a fine one if I'm doing 2 sponge filters. That way I kind of get more of the water polishing benefits. I can service 1 sponge filter, leave the other, make sure I've always got good beneficial bacteria.
I love every tank. I love your plant growth. It makes me want to do more plants in my tanks. Right now I'm mainly just floating plants or these mosses, but man, seeing the crypts you spread out, those are cool.
Yeah, these Tropica are cool how they just kind of fold over the ground. They don't really grow up like a Wendetii.
That's very unique to me. And then this rare one you were talking about right here in front, I've never seen that.
Yeah, I've not seen it anywhere, but my brother, who, gave it to me, really, I guess. We trade things back and forth. A lot of ram's horn snails, a lot of bladder snails. What else do I got in this one? I think that's this tank in a nutshell. This is my Chardennai puffer tank. It's a 40 breeder. I tried to keep it, puffer centric with the smaller fish just to, provide it some enrichment. I think that's huge for a puffer. One of the reasons why I feed the puffer scuds. Those scuds will get in here. They'll kind of clean up the tank where snails can't, because the puffer will eat those snails, but the puffer can hunt those scuds, keep it busy, kind of keep down on the plant nipping and the holes that you see in the plants. I have it filtered 2 ways. There's a AquaClear 70 hang on back. It's got an Aquarium Co-Op pre-filter, and then sponges in the back with a little bit of pothos. And then the Aquarium Co-Op sponge filter with the Zis Never Clog Airstone in there. Great sponge filters. Let's see, and then mainly Aquascape with Ceru stone. I kind of wanted to keep away from the sticks, keep away from the pointy objects, which I'm glad I did because I've dropped the lid. These 40 breeder lids are so heavy.
Yeah, I've dealt with the lids in the past and they're nuts.
And I was doing a water change and the puffer was just cruising the stream and the lid fell and it scared the puffer and it shot across the tank, and I'm just glad there wasn't anything pokey in there to lose an eye or anything.
So what fish do you have in with your Shodanite? Because that's going to be the number one question you're going to get is what fish, and is your puffer aggressive to them? So I guess two questions. Okay, so for the fish, I have Daisy's blue rice fish. There's 2 males, 1 female. The smaller female is one that I raised up and added recently. You can see on the larger female, she's carrying, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 eggs that she's going to go and, you know, deposit on some moss somewhere at some point. And those will hatch out in the tank. Sometimes I'll suck the fry out and put them in the pond. Other times I'll just kind of let nature take its course. And then I don't know how many Hillstream loaches I have exactly. I know that there are 5 adults and several fry. And then I have 1 super red bushy nose Pleco. I believe it's a male. It's still a little young. And then I have a trio of pilatus or peppered cories. They also breed in here. I'll just scrape the eggs off and raise those up separately. Let's see, you may see a couple yellow shrimp. I do put some shrimp coals, if you will, in this tank. I've never seen the puffer eat them. I see them every once in a while. But the puffer isn't aggressive to fish. It's not aggressive to shrimp. It is a little aggressive to the plants, but that's a known issue, and I believe that that has a lot to do with boredom. And once you solve that boredom issue, the plant nipping issue decreases, but I don't believe it ever goes away. So we talked a little bit before we started filming this. By the way, this is my favorite tank he has now. The way that the plants fill, the rockscape, everything just works in motion. You talked about you added fish to help combat the boredom?
That's right. I started out and I had only the puffer in this tank. I had a lot of crypts grown, a lot of Crypt Spiralis red, and then the Anubias didn't have a lot of the hydrocaudal Japan you see, or the Hygrophila angustifolio in the back that you see, and the puffer went through and it nipped all of the crypt plants down to bare substrate to where they were gone. This is how they've grown back. So I did research and it seemed like a boredom thing, so I first added the cories, and the puffer was good with the cories, and I thought, great. And then I was having problems with algae, and again, I can't have snails in here, so I just went with the Hillstream loaches because I thought they were awesome. The videos on them, people's opinions said that they can work in my setup, and they've worked beautifully. They breed in here, the fry raise up in here, awesome little fish. And then the Daisy's rice fish I added last. But with all that action, it does seem to keep the puffer busy and happy.
Oh, the tank looks full. Even though we have the puffer cruising around, but as you're watching, all the little fish run around the bottom of the tank, and it looks full. I love the activity in the tank.
Yeah, I tried to keep it mainly bottom dwellers, few column dwellers, again, just to keep it puffer centric, just to make the puffer as happy as she can be, not have to compete for food, and just live her best life that I can provide her.
Then if I'm not mistaken, you did an unboxing video of the puffer, right?
You can see that. I got her from the wet spot. She came in as a wild caught specimen, and I quarantined her and then moved her into this tank. That's all on YouTube. Feel free to check it out if you'd like to see my experience with the wet spot and ordering a Shodanite puffer.
Yeah, we'll make sure to put a card up in the corner so people can access that video And then all the links to his channel, Because Your Fish, will be down in the description below. And everybody can check that out.
Aquarium. This is the fish tank that really got me into the hobby. You know, I didn't know what I was getting into. My little brother does planted tanks, and he got me set up with a planted tank, and just seeing that an aquarium can be, you know, a glass planter box with fish and shrimp just hooked me, and that's all she wrote. In this tank I have a ton of different plants. I could probably spend all day naming them off. You got Bacopa, the Rosifolia, that's a Alther Neckii, I believe, is the red plant in the middle. I've got some Hygrophila Sunset in the back, kind of with the veins in the leaves and a little bit of red. With CO2 it'll really make that red pop. I don't have CO2 on this tank. Growing on the side we've got the indica, whatever that is, I can't think of the name at the time.
Is it the Rotalia indica?
Rotalia indica, thank you, yes. I bought that at an aquarium meeting. What is the
Was that one of our auctions?
One of our auctions, that's right. I bought that. I probably got it from Guppy Guru. Let's see. Ground cover, I've got dwarf sag. You can see a little bit of the hydrocodal Japan in the back. The pink one's a Crypt Pink Panther. You see a little Nana Petite right there, Anubias.
So what was the one we were just talking about it? You said there was one you could never get to grow on the substrate, so why fight it?
So that's the
Pink Panther?
That's the Pink Panther. You know, the internet tells me that I should plant the roots and have the crown just above the substrate, but that plant will not plant, but it grows really good just floating, so my philosophy is why fight it.
I love it. But even the root structure, I was blown away by this. This is your dwarf sag, right?
Yep.
Man, the root structure on that.
There's a little bit of dwarf hairgrass in there. Doesn't do that great with the lighting that I have, but I'm not too worried about it.
So what is, because people are going to ask, you said no CO2, so I want to reiterate, there's no CO2 on this tank.
No CO2.
So what light are you using? Because this is a jungle, but it's a beautifully aquascape. I mean, the plant selection, the placement is perfect.
Yep. And people probably wouldn't believe I don't scrub algae off the glass, and I don't pick hair algae. It's just got a nice balance, so I kind of leave it alone.
This is an incredible balance.
The lighting is called a pawfly, I believe. I got it on Amazon. Just a cheaper light, nothing fancy, but it does the trick. I think it's made for a rimless tank. I've just made it work. Again, I've got the double filtration that I like. Hang on back to kind of polish the water. I put crushed coral in the hang on back.
Okay.
To keep the KH up so I don't, you know, drop my pH. That way the shrimp and the snails don't have to compete too hard for those minerals. Pothos in the back. Aquarium Co-Op easy feeder that just feeds them in the morning. In there I've got the fry food mixed with a little bit of the Bug Bites small tropical fish food. I feel like those Bug Bites granules, they keep that fry food from caking up, and it dispenses evenly.
Oh, there's a super tip there. That's a real hobbyist tip right there.
And another hobbyist tip that you got to see is if you got a worm feeder you're not using, that'll keep your floating plants floating. So that's the worm cone without the cone, just the round part, suction cup to the back. Fits perfectly on an Aqua Clear 20. It's been like that for like a year. So.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Let's see. And then I breed the yellow goldenback shrimp in here.
Yeah, you have
as you can see,
an amazing population in here.
Yep, I started off with 4, 2 males, 2 females, and they exploded. And I cull out the ones without the stripe. I just put them to live out their lives with my puffers, and they seem to do just fine. And then for fish in this tank, I have a hodgepodge of Rasporas. I have chili Rasporas, strawberry Rasporas, and Phoenix Rasporas. They're all the Barreras species, so a nanofish. In my opinion, the chili Raspora is the most stunning fish in the aquarium hobby. I'm stoked to be able to keep a fish like that. They will literally shine from within when they're trying to spawn with a female. Their tails will glow red, and it's almost like they have a light inside them. I can send you footage of that. If you
Yeah,
like.
I mean,
It's
that
amazing.
sounds awesome.
And really, that was another thing that got me hooked on the hobby, is watching those guys light up. And then there are two bushy nose plecos. There's one blue eye, long fin albino.
That's my favorite Pleco.
Some people call them the lemons.
Is it the lemon blue eye?
Lemon blue eye long fin, and then there's a super red long fin.
I think your super red's hanging right back in there. It's on a piece of driftwood in the back.
Okay. Yep, and those are fish I hope to breed. I believe the blue eye lemon is a female. I believe the red one's a female, but they're both a little young to sex as well. And then I have a group of Coreodora histatus in here, but I don't think we're going to get lucky enough to see them. But let's see. Substrate. I use
Well, yeah, people are going to ask that too, because that's a thick layer.
I use Fluval stratum,
Okay.
and then I use fluorite, the red stuff. I like to put a layer of the red stuff, kind of where I'm going to plant the red plants.
Is that more enriched with iron, isn't it? Is
Yeah.
that the basis of it?
I believe so. That's my thought process. And then it kind of mixes up as plants get uprooted. But I don't mind how it looks. I think it looks kind of cool.
Oh, this is an absolutely beautiful tank. So again, this tank, no CO2, you dose some fertilizer, it's well balanced enough so anybody can really accomplish this.
Oh yeah, I dose fertilizer only when I do water changes. I don't like to add more than that. And I just give it 2 squirts of Easy Green and 1 squirt of iron on my water change, and it works magic for me. And then the light is on, I believe it kicks on 8:30, kicks off 5:30. So light's constant. I adjust the rest where I can.
This is a great display tank to have in your living area. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Is the Aquarium Plant. I used to grow this Ludwigia. It's just like a basic common type of Ludwigia. I don't know the name. In the aquarium, and it's always just grows so fast. I'd have to trim it like twice a week. And I put it out here, and it just was bright red and beautiful. And then it grows out of the water green. There's a Amazon sword planted down here in a big pot. There's also crypts in it. Let's see. This, I call it hornwort, but I'm not sure if that's what it is.
It looks very similar to it.
And then the other cool thing, of course, is the hydro. That's what I have in like the puffer tank that's bright green. Turns this color out here, super cool.
That was one of the coolest. I think it's one of my favorite plants you have.
And then I do have an Apondageton, but
So there's one sponge filters in here, right?
one large Aquarium Co-Op. Whoa, bomb it.
And you gotta just
I think that's an extra large, and that's a
Okay.
large. And then, you know, I just ran just a valve box to keep it out of the weather. There's a pump and a weather strip.
so and Endler's live bears in here.
Endler's live bears.
Not that
Yep.
we're gonna be able to see much of them, but
Like maybe Blue Star. I don't know. I'm new to the live bears.
man, but one scoop of your hand and that many.
And that's the other thing I love about those little fishes. They're not shy at all. And I don't like to touch them that often, you know, but anyway. So then in the floaters, these are pond planters with holes. They're lined with newspaper. They have an inert potting soil, and then just capped with pea gravel. This is Creeping Jenny. You get it from like anywhere, a garden store, Home Depot. And this is variegated sweet flag. Does well in the sun. And this one again, we've got Creeping Jenny. This is Society Garlic, really fragrant, beautiful plant. Throws up nice purple flowers. Let's see. And then more of the variegated sweet flag. And down in the corner, you can see just a little bit of Hydrocotyle Japan growing up, which I thought was pretty cool. I put in there and it made it.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
And then there's 2 aquarium lilies, water hyacinth, and of course my duckweed. I love duckweed. And then the rice fish, and there's also yellow shrimp. Hopefully end of season I have a ton more yellow shrimp and a ton more rice fish.
Hopefully that's a big colony coming out of there.
Yeah.
Well, Seth, I can't thank you enough for letting me out here. This was awesome to see your ponds, your fish room, everything you got going on. And I can't thank you enough for the rice fish.
Yes,
very excited to get those going again. So
you're very welcome, and thank you for coming out and showing my setup.
Anytime. So again, guys, check out Because Your Fish sells on Get Gills.
That's right.
And I'm hoping to come back down here again sometime. So
yeah,
we will talk to you guys in the next one.
Thank you.
All right, so I just got done filming down here with Seth from Because Your Fish. So if you have not found his YouTube channel, you absolutely need to. Seth is just one of the best guys I've ever met from this hobby, and I can't thank him enough for his hospitality. Let me into his home, seeing his fish setup. Beautiful fish. So say Because Your Fish on YouTube. I will be leaving a link down that in the description. And you know, guys, he does sell on Get Gills. So if you want his fish, but again, I can't thank, this is the part of the hobby, like, I can't thank Seth enough. Those are Daisy Blue rice fish. So Seth saw my disaster video where I lost all of my rice fish, and he sent me home with a new colony, guys, like a new colony of Daisy Blue rice fish. And these are some of the best Daisy Blues I've ever seen. So Seth, thank you so much. And then as we're leaving, he's like, no, you need more than you need more. Sent me home some awesome Bucephalandra, and then a new type of Pogostemon pinnipitata. Never had those before. So I know this was a very long video, but if you have made it to this point, if you have made it to the end, leave me a comment down below. Let me know, like, guys, give Seth some love. I am so grateful I got to see this. So happy I got to do this. And I look forward to doing more with Seth in the future. So everybody, thank you so much for your support. We'll talk to you guys in the next one.